Hello everybody, this is General Hand Grenade. Welcome to my war room in Prince George, British Columbia. Well, it's Saturday morning here in the war room and we're going to play a game of Global 40. I did a video last weekend with the G1 Barbarossa, and so I thought it'd be interesting to film this game because I'm doing exactly the same move to begin with. So we're gonna put that to the test. I mean, remember I was speculating that this could happen or that could happen, and I just didn't know what was going to happen. Well, this time we're going to find out what happens. So I'll just show you the moves really quickly. You can see why the red dots, that's where I've moved everything. Exactly the same moves as I did in my video there. So that's exactly what I'm going to do, and we're going to find out how that works against a live opponent. Say good morning, Panzer King.
Good morning to you all.
He's the bad guy. He's the one that's going to try to ruin our strategy. So fuck him. Anyway, we're gonna see how it works out, so we'll get back to you. Okay, so that turned out a little differently than it did in the video. Some things better, but mostly not as good because I didn't roll so well that first turn. Like for instance, when I went after Western Ukraine here with those 3 planes, I hit him 3 shots, but then he hit me back twice, and I wasn't able to take Bessarabia, so that sucked. So that was easy for him to come back. So he's stronger here now. The one good thing that happened was that he scrambled his planes over here. He didn't scramble into here, which was a mistake, into 109, but he did scramble into 110 with some planes, and I hit everything but the planes, and I had a damaged battleship. So rather than carry on with the attack, I retreated with the battleship, and I just took the damage marker off now. I just started my turn 2. So that worked out. The British definitely are getting the better of the Italians down in the med there. Again, rolling was pretty good. Plus, he had good strategy. He took out Persia down there, and what is that? Iraq. So he left the sub-Saharan Africa, which the Italians went after. Yeah, he did kind of what I usually do over here in the Middle East, and didn't do much in Africa. That's usually what I do. He bought a destroyer over here because actually bought 2 destroyers because he brought one over, and I had a sub left there because my sub took out his destroyer transport. So then he brought his destroyer over, and then that sub took out another destroyer. So that guy did his job. So he bought 2 destroyers this turn. Now over here, the Japanese, they violated the Mongolian rule and they took out a Mir. The Russians had kept 6 dudes and 2 anti-aircraft in there, which the Japanese dispatched. So that's why you see the Mongolians here are now Russians, and these guys have moved back 1 space. The Japanese took Yunnan there, and the Chinese took Yunnan back. So basically what you see here is something less of a J1 attack. Everything is about normal from what you would expect here. They did put a complex down here, and they put a couple of transports on. You see the Americans here, they're moving up to Alaska, and they've moved their fleet up to Hawaii there. Anzac didn't do any surprises. They took out one of the Dutch islands over there, and they bought a transport and a dude down over there. The British had a really good turn though, I showed you that. Still two French boats in the med. The Germans are going to try to take those out now. The Americans, they bought 3 strategic bombers over here, and they bought
2 destroyers.
2 destroyers. Actually, one of the strategic bombers was over there, and 2 on the other side. So they bought 3 bombers and 2 destroyers. And that's where we sit. I think that's everybody. Oh, the Russians, they're doing pretty well too. They were able to collect $42 that time because they weren't down any income. And they collected a bonus of 5. So they're doing really well. They had $42. That's not getting it done on the G1 Barbarossa. It really sucked not getting Bessarabia there because that put me back 1 turn. Anyway, we're playing turn 2 now. Okay, so we're done the end of round 2 here. As you can see, the British are doing really well down in Africa. They've got people all up and down there. And they just put 2 factories on, one in Iraq and one in Persia. And nobody's attacked them over there in Calcutta yet, so they're looking pretty secure. But that's just because nobody's attacked them yet, right? The Italians are still alive in North Africa there. They just took out a French fighter over here and the rest of the French. They took out a British transport over here that had brought this tank over. You can see the Americans are starting to spam bombers on the eastern United States over there. London itself doesn't look all that secure, so that's something I'm going to have to look at is, with the British ignoring London up there and just putting everything down there. That leaves them open to an attack, but it just depends on, what's good for the Germans. The Germans and the Russians really got into a big battle over Bessarabia. The Germans had come over here and they'd strategically bombed, took 5 damage on Ukraine, and then so the Russians had to pay that off. And then they took everything they had against Bessarabia because the Germans had stacked it in there. So you can see the Germans are just slightly ahead. The Russians are doing pretty good with their air force there. Up top is, curiously, is where he's putting a lot of his stuff there. So I got to watch out for that as a German player. Over here, China's just about out of it. You can see there's some stuff on there. That's just because they had quite a bit of money from having the road last time. But yeah, before they put any stuff on, they only had 1 guy left. That's what happens when Japan isn't going after Britain and the United States. They've got all day to tee off on the Chinese. And they're all also making their way across Siberia up there. They've taken out anybody that's in Mongolia. And so the Russians have moved back. That's all they've got left of their, what would it be, 24 guys? So 6, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, so they've lost 9 dudes and 2 anti-aircraft over there, anti-aircraft guns. And the Japanese didn't do much. They bought all ground units this time, just building up. So they're going to have to start doing something soon because the Americans are building on both sides of the borders. They're doing the sub thing, but they're also putting lots of destroyers over there. So we'll see what Panzer King has in store for me. And we're going to go to the next round. Okay, so we're at the end of round 3, and America has declared war, and the British and Anzac have declared war on Japan. So everybody's at war now. And it feels weird because I'm used to attacking a lot sooner with the Japanese, but because of that G1 Barbarossa, I did not want to attack until I needed to. So the result is, of course, that they got the first shot at me. So Anzac is actually taking out the Caroline Islands. It's a good thing it's not worth anything. Like Japan's ready to pounce. They've got 5 transports in the water and they're all ready to spread out and everything. But they haven't yet, so they don't look that good. And China's almost out. China's only got 2 spaces left, and the Russians are, like, I've got Siberia all the way up to here. So that's going okay. I'll be able to put pressure on Russia from the backside as well, which I wasn't planning on doing. I was just planning on occupying those Russians so they didn't get back. But I tell you, not being able to take out Bessarabia, that was a big thing in this game, because it's after the 3rd turn. Right now I should be sitting on Ukraine and I'm not. And that's a problem because it's all about timing in this one. Because you look at what's coming now, right? The Americans are coming across the water. They've got all of those bombers over there. And so, they needed to have Ukraine by now so that 2 more turns from now they could take Moscow. And I don't know that I'm going to get it now. Although the Japanese coming up the backside is going to help. But also we've got all those British down there. So we'll see what's going to happen here. They can take Ukraine this turn, definitely. They've got what they need to take Ukraine. But another thing that happened is that the Russians came in here. I was negligent in putting more guys over here. I should have put 2 or 4 more guys over here by now, but I didn't. I was trying hard to get that down there. I was overcompensating because of the Bessarabia thing, and so that really threw me for a loop there. Not much on here. He's only like he hasn't put anything on here as far as I can see, which leaves him open. Like I can switch directions all I want. He doesn't have many ships over there, so that's something that I can think about. The Italians are still hanging on in North Africa there, but not for long, because the British have got them surrounded, and you can see they've just started putting stuff on down there, and they put 3 mechs on and 3 tanks, so they'll be able to start making their way either to Russia or Calcutta, depending on what the need is going to be. And Anzac is doing really well because nobody has put them in check, so they were able to take all of that money over there. But they're about to lose a lot of things, right? Because Japan's gonna start attacking now. It really felt weird not attacking with Japan, but that's the way it goes. So you might see that got some Iowa class battleships and some super subs on the board, but we're not playing with those kind of things. So they're just regular battleships and regular subs in this game. So anyway, that's the end of round 3, and we're gonna break for lunch now. Okay, so we are in, what is it, 2, 4, we're round 5? Yeah, it looks like we're starting round 5. Things are starting to get interesting. You can see the Americans are all built up, and they've even crossed over a little bit over there up into Siberia. And you can see Anzac down here. So that's their part of the Pacific. But Japan has finally decided to get their ass in gear, and they were able to finally make an attack. So there you go. They've got all of China. They've got half of the Mighty Islands now. Should be able to get the other half this turn. They've got enough transports to do it. Either that or they could go after Anzac down here. It's up to them. They're doing pretty good up there. Plus they've got $60, so they can afford some hefty navy. And they've moved all the way up to the Chinese border with some troops, and up at the top in Siberia. And Britain has got quite a bit of stuff down here, but Japan's not doing too bad down here either. So that's a pretty good fight. You can see that the British have decided to start moving into Russia. They've used that strategic bomber to prevent all those tanks from blitzing through. I finally took Ukraine on the last turn. It was a turn late, but on turn 4, like I needed to get him turn 3, because now you can see it's kind of late because the British have shown up. I needed to get in there before that. Britain has almost taken out Africa now. There's just 1 artillery piece left there. Otherwise, the British have got that. The Italians, they finally got in here. They weren't able to take Greece earlier, so they finally took it off the British now. And the British have only got 1 boat over here. Actually, they've got only 2 boats. They've got this submarine down here, and they've got a cruiser over here, and that's the only 2 boats they have on the board. The Americans aren't that strong in the Atlantic. You can see they've got 3 transports and a cruiser. Probably the biggest development in this game, though, and why I think the Allies are winning right now, is that the Germans only have 3 planes on the board. Terrible luck. They went after the Russians, and they couldn't roll anything going for Finland. Like, it was a pretty easy attack, and they lost a bunch of planes. And it was in the 4th round there. Didn't matter what they did, they were losing planes, whether it was offense or defense. They just kept losing more and more planes. I think I lost 5 planes on that turn alone, and 4 planes before that, so that's 9, and only got 3 left. I bought a fighter now, but it's getting kind of late, so that's why the Americans can get away with only having 3 boats down there. You can see their strategic bomber up there. That's actually 7 strategic bombers, so that can be a pain in the ass for the Germans as well. And nothing happening over there. There's no floating bridge or anything built. It's mostly over here that they've built up in Pacific over there. So it's a pretty good game so far. An unusual game, it seems to me, which is good, because I hate playing the same game over and over and over again. That's why I haven't been playing a whole bunch of Global 40 lately, It just seemed like every game was following the same 2 or 3 scripts, and this one's a little bit different. So we'll move into the 5th round now. Okay, so that's the end of the 5th round, and you can see America is starting to think that they're all that. They just walked right up to Japan and knocked on the door. They haven't, actually they haven't knocked yet. They think they're sneaky, but they're not. But they're doing all right. And the Anzac are actually having a really good game. They've had lots of money the whole game. So for Anzac, they're doing pretty good, and this is what America's got in behind. The Japanese are doing really well too. They've still got all their kamikazes. They haven't used any of those yet. They've got lots of money. They've got the money islands down there, and they've got Calcutta in some trouble. They could actually take a run at Calcutta right now, but if they had a couple of more units that they could pick up, then they probably would, but there's just no dudes to pick up along the way. Otherwise, they could hit Calcutta this turn. You can see they bombed their factory pretty good there. But there isn't a lot of units left down there, and now the British are starting to have to move units from Middle Earth over to India now, and not just up to Russia. Russia is just hanging on now. Like, this is all they've got left is right here, and right here, and right here. And the Japanese are right in behind them now. And the Germans are knocking on the door, but looks like that the British are probably going to stop the Germans over there. I think the Germans could take this now if they want. The Americans, they had 7 strategic bombers. They managed to lose 3 of them that turn, but they bombed Germany pretty good too. They've got Germany at max damage at 20, and but they lost a lot of their boats and stuff. The Italians finally got a bonus for clearing them head. It took 5 turns to do it, but they finally got 1 bonus in the game for doing that. But the Americans aren't much of a threat right now over there because of the lack of transports. But the one thing that's a saving grace for them is that Germany is now down to 2 planes. That's it, just 2 planes left on the board. And it's not like they get way too much money that they can afford to buy a bunch of planes right now. So that kind of sucks for them. The British are still doing pretty well. They still got lots of North Africa and everything. With the German Navy out, the German Navy just got taken out this turn too. I mean, they did manage to get some hits doing it. They took out 3 American bombers, and I think a British fighter on their way out, so that was pretty good. But the problem is now that there is no sea lion threat whatsoever, because with the planes that the Americans got there, and there's a British plane over there, there's no way they can start a Navy right now. It'd be better for them to start an Air Force than a Navy, but that's not going to get them what they need if they planned on taking London. So the British don't even have to worry about it now. They can just build over there. But I didn't want to break my focus over there because I knew I was behind the ball over here trying to get to Moscow. But as you can see, it's going to be tough for the Germans to get there, but the Japanese might be able to get there, so we'll see. And I think we covered everybody. Oh, the neutrals. The neutrals are all standing there. They're all white guys. Yep, Anyway, we'll be back after the next round. Okay, so we come to the end of the 7th round, and we've decided to call the game. By we, I mean Panzer King. He had to get going. It's dinner time here, and he doesn't have time tomorrow to play, and he's got things to do coming up in the next little while, so he can't make it back. So I asked him, so I win, and he said no. I don't know, man. So I'm gonna ask you guys, okay? When I show you, then you take a good look and see what you think. See who you think is winning this game, okay? So what happened here since the last one? Well, the American Navy came in and attacked the Japanese Navy. Like you seen that they were sitting, where were they? I think they were right here. And they came in and they just got decimated. Lost every ship they had. Not only that, but they had left their transports back here. So on Japan's turn before that, Japan just took one sub down here and wiped them out. Like these things came here afterwards. But they wiped out all their transports. So the Americans had no transports anywhere near them. But they did come with all their other ships. They didn't bring enough, they didn't buy enough destroyers and submarines though, and I had a shit ton of submarines, and 3 destroyers. So you can see I've got 3 capital ships damaged. I had these 3 fighters that I was able to scramble. Like all I lost was 6 subs and 2 destroyers. And 3 damaged ships. That's it. That's all I lost in the whole fight. He lost his entire navy. That's not the only thing that happened. Like I ran out of roundels for the Japanese. I've never taken that much of Siberia before, right? So they've got everything up there, everything, absolutely everything. And then they also took Calcutta. Now the after that, then the British took it back, but they've only got one tank there. So these guys are going to be able to take them back again. Plus, they're going to be able to come over with some navy and take this out, so that there's no way that the British can take it back again. So the British will not get Calcutta again this game. And as you can see, they're starting to peter out down here in Middle Earth. They've blown their wad up here. And then, like, if they could have kept going, that would have been great. But then Calcutta fell, so then they had to start coming over here, right? That's where that tank came from that saved them, or that got India back. Now they're doing really good in the Middle East and in Africa and everything. But once Japan gets Calcutta, it's not just that they've got Calcutta and there's no American Navy. The Japanese also have 89 IPCs in the bank right now. So I mean, they can do whatever the hell they want, right? And like you see, they're on Russia's doorstep up there, so they can do whatever they want. The one thing that was a big surprise and did not work very well this game, but there was a couple of mistakes made and a couple of bad rolls in key situations. So the Barbarossa attack, the G1 Barbarossa, didn't make it to Moscow. It almost did. Like, the Russians don't have many units. It actually looked worse for them a turn ago, but they just didn't have enough units up there. And then the Germans ran out. Like, it just seems like whenever Germany was rolling for their air force, they lost, right? So they've got what, just two planes on the board right now, and they bought a couple in the last couple turns. So they've lost a dozen planes in this game, and there's just nothing they can do about that. So anyway, their attack petered out. It got as far as Bryansk and kind of petered out. The Italians have come up here, so they've set up a can opener, right? Like, these guys are going to be able to come over to Stalingrad or the Caucasus or both, right? And that's probably what'll end up happening. Another mistake that they made, the Germans, and I know I did, there was a couple of turns where I should have brought dudes over to Norway from Germany, but I didn't. I thought, oh, I'll be okay, and that was a big mistake. Like, all I had to do was bring them across the water to Norway, because the Russians ended up breaking through Norway, and that made a big difference as well, of course, right? Because that gives the Russians $11 for these 2 territories, and it takes $5 off the Germans. So that made a big difference in the game as well. It helped the Russians stay in the game. The American bombers, they brought 7 of them across from on the eastern side. They didn't use them very well, though. Like, I attacked them here. After they lost 3 of them here, then I attacked them here, and they managed to save 1. But I didn't have much to attack with. They had the Russian tank here, and they had the British fighter, and they did lose 3 more. So they lost 6 bombers on 1 turn there. And so that didn't do too well for them. The Americans didn't do them any favors in this game, that's for sure. The British played a really good game. The Russians played a good game, but the Americans did not help them out very much at all. So maybe they were still full of turkey. 2 days after Thanksgiving, and they're still full of turkey and black eyes from Black Friday. They did bring some stuff down, but as you can see, all they've got is just transports. They've got no ships or anything. These guys, that's not going to hurt them at all, because there's no transports down here to get across. And even then, like, the Italians have had an excellent game too. Even though they lost their navy early in the game, you look at them here. They've got they sent a couple of guys over to help Germany. They've got enough guys here. They've got a ton of guys here. They've got a ton of guys here. Plus, they're heading out with fast movers, right? They've got fast movers here and up here. They were thinking of starting their way up here because these guys barely held out. It was like they shouldn't have held out. There's no way on the last turn, on the 7th turn here. The Germans had overwhelming odds here, and then the rolling turned bad again. Like the rolling went back and forth. I started out bad, and then it turned around and I was rolling good, and then just on that last turn right here, the rolling was bad. Nothing like the rolling in between the navies over there. So I can't complain too hard about that, right? I mean, rolling hits us all. So they're coming up here to give them a hand. Plus they've got these fast movers down here, right? So the Italians are doing really well. They've used planes to take out all kinds of ships. That's why the planes are up here. They were taking out American transport up here, right? But and they took out the British plane that was scrambling on there to help out with the American transport. So yeah, the Italians did a great job in this game for what they have. And they only collected one bonus the whole game, 1 5 IPC bonus, and that's it. So they spent their money wisely, and they, like they didn't try to do too much, right? It's just been, this is the first time they've done a can opener, and that was on the 7th turn. They didn't go too far, they didn't spread themselves out too much, because earlier in the game, the British had lots of boats down there. They just bought this boat now. This is the only British boat on the entire board right now. And the Americans, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 warships on the board. The Russians have no warships. So the Allies have got 6 warships in total on the board. That's why I think I'm winning this game, and he didn't agree, but sorry, that's not right. Because the Anzac have done an awesome job too. I mean, you look at this; they just liberated the Philippines. They've got subs down here. They've got a destroyer here, a destroyer down here. They've got a couple of bombers on the board. So but the thing is, like I completely ignored them for the most part. Like I did take them out when I was taking the Money Islands. But with the strategy where I did not attack until the 4th turn, other than Russia and China, that meant that the Anzac could do whatever they want. So they went and got the Money Islands themselves, and they collected a lot of money, and they were able to get lots of stuff on the board, right? And plus they were able to collect their bonuses as well, because the Japanese couldn't get down there fast enough, and they still haven't taken any of their bonuses off. There just seemed to be something better to take than Malaya every time for the Japanese since they've been at war. So they haven't bothered taking Malaya yet. So there's that bonus, and then there's the other bonus that I'd have to take myself out of position to go and get, taking out one of these territories over here. So Anzac has had it pretty easy this game, and they've done well with what they've had. But as I said, I think that this game is going to be over. Like it's going to be an easy hop, skip, and a jump to take Calcutta back, and then that's 5 cities, 4. Then they can take the Philippines back, because remember, there's no American Navy left, and there's 2 Japanese navies. Like they've got the Navy down there, they've got the Navy here, they've got $89 in the bank over here, and all they've got to fight is the Anzac and a few American transports and a couple of warships. So I think that they will have a good shot at taking the 6 victory cities that they need. And then I don't think these guys are going to get the victory cities over here. But you never know, because the British, like with the Japanese, they're heading to Middle Earth now. There's going to be nothing to stop them once they break through Calcutta. Then they won't be able to help out. In Russia, they look all right, but that's just because they've got planes, right? There's really not many ground units for the Russians. Not many for the Germans either. But with all those Italians back there, and with not many transports in the water over there, or things to protect the transports, then they're going to be easy to stop on that side of the board too. So I think the Axis is winning the game, but let me know what you think in the comment section of this video, please, because him and I are arguing about it. So you can help us settle this argument by telling us who you think is going to win this game. because we're not going to finish it. But who do you think would win the game eventually? Am I missing something here? Do you think that the Allies are coming back? I know that I've made some mistakes in this game for sure. And Panzer King, he played an excellent game. He just started playing Global 40 a year ago when I started teaching him and a couple other guys how to play it. They'd played older Axis and Allies games before, but it was about a year ago this time when they played their very first game of Global 40, and he's gotten really good, really fast. He's made some unconventional moves in this game, which are hard to defend against and hard to attack against. Like, you know that. You think, oh, well, it's not the best move, but holy shit, how am I going to deal with that, right? So it does make you think, and he played a really good game. And actually, the last game, I think, he beat me. He was playing the Axis, and he beat me. That was his first win against me. So I played the Axis this time, and I'm pretty sure I kicked his ass, but you're going to have to confirm that for me because he won't believe me. Anyway, that is it. I didn't have a chance a couple days ago, so I hope you Americans, friends of mine down stateside, had a really good Thanksgiving, and you didn't get beat up too bad on Black Friday. And I'm done. Take care, everyone. General Hand Grenade out.